Sales is a good way for someone who's not specialized in something. Sales is a good way to get ahead with not being an engineer or, some kind of doctor, scientist, whatever. A small family business, you need some, you need to keep your place in order. Yeah, you're exactly right. You can't hold on to something for a year. If it's in the way and it's taking up your money, get rid of it. But anyway, it's one thing to have a good idea, but you need the confidence to do it. And then you need the toughness to see it through. Mm-hmm. That's another thing, about business ownership.
Welcome back to the Wealthy Cowboy Show. I'm excited today. I got a guy on that I actually met about a year ago, helping him with his social media. Now he's running for office in Oklahoma. He started his own podcast since then. He's got an equipment company. Cody Elliott, how's it going?
Going good, Crockett. It's good to be here.
Yes, sir.
I've enjoyed your podcast. I think I've listened to every episode and maybe every solo.
Yeah.
And I've learned a lot, and hopefully I've got some wisdom I can give to your viewers and listeners. So excited to be here, man.
Yeah. Yes, sir. I'm glad you could come. As you know, as a listener, you know how it goes. We always start with your background, and I know we've got to visit quite a bit. I'm not quite a bit, but several times we've had some good conversations. But I really don't know a whole lot about your background, so I'm excited to hear that too.
Yeah, so I was born in Duncan, Oklahoma, and that's kind of the area I live now, but mostly raised out in Pampa, Texas, and that's where I graduated high school and went to school at Texas Tech, and kind of went undecided, at first, and ended up going for ag business, and thought I wanted to get into ag lending, and decided that wasn't going to be for me, where the opportunity was going to be in Kansas for me.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I got a job with Warren Cat out of college, so got in the equipment business, and moved back to Oklahoma to be close to family, and worked a couple corporate jobs, and finally decided in 2012 that I eventually wanted to be, on my own business. So we started a business in 2012, and kind of on the side, we had a little lot there in Marlow, Oklahoma, and I sold some trucks and some trailers and started learning about the business while I was still working. I was a equipment rental salesman at the time. And
so you were able to kind of leverage what you did for a living, the knowledge that you already knew, but you just did it for yourself on the side.
Yeah. So kind of got started where it wasn't as much risk. I still had a full-time job with benefits, I had a wife and kids, and so was able to dabble in it and learn as I went, and so that helped me a lot. But I figured out early on I wanted to work for myself, and you talk a lot about financial freedom and freedom of time, and so I figured that out, and I was able to learn as I went. And finally in 2017 I quit my full-time job, and went full-time in the equipment business. So and since then we've gone through some changes. We diversified our equipment. I'm not selling used autos anymore. Used equipment, trailers, skid steer attachments. And then recently, in the last year, I've gone to some livestock equipment. So some chutes, some bulk feeders. I'm going to try to get into more of that. Some concrete bulk feeders, stuff like that, So
yeah,
that's kind of the goal. And a few years ago, we bought some storage units. So, you talk a lot about real estate and kind of dabbling in some of that passive income, so-called passive income. Yeah. We bought some storage units a few years ago. So that's been a learning phase, and I'm hoping to at some point pay that down enough where I can add on. So we've got the ability to add on where we're at. And then we bought some land in Duncan, which is about 10 miles south. So hoping to expand that as well, my storage business. So that's been a learning curve. So all the way through business ownership, I've been paying for my education with the mistakes I've made, but that was the good thing. And that's one thing I would suggest if you're wanting to start something, is do it kind of on the side. It's not as risky because you're not, going all in at once. And some guys do that, and there is still some risk, but yeah, learn as you go, and you still got that income coming in.
Yeah.
That, something to fall back on, especially if you got the wife and kids at home. So
yeah, everybody's different. I think like I was more like just jump in, because my risk tolerance is high, and I was just like, I'm not really losing anything. If you go to zero, whatever, you're already not very far from zero. But yeah, if you have the ability But I think it's very smart to, like, if you have the ability to, you're already well versed in equipment, working for somebody else, that was your job, but you're like, if I go do it for myself over here, I already know everything, but all I got to do is learn kind of more the business side.
Yeah.
And I can make more money or have more freedom at least.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you talk about that a lot. You talk about financial freedom, and that's the deal for us. You've been to my business. It's right next to my house. It's so nice. The kids are getting older now, but I've got a basketball goal in there, and they come hang out, and my son comes out and works and drives forklift for me, so I'm able to be close to home, make my own hours, so to speak, and then teach my son and hang out with them, maximize my time with them. That was another, not just financially, but my time, my freedom of time to hang out with my kids. As you know, with Lottie, it goes by fast.
Yeah.
They grow up fast.
Yeah. It's, I was having this conversation with Chad after we were done with our last episode with Chad, that, like, my goal has always been to just integrate my life. Like, I see so many people that, like, they have, like, work, and you have your work friends and your people at work, and then you have, like, your family, and then you have your other set of friends outside of work and outside of family, and you do all these separate things, like, compartmentalized. Whereas, like, I'm like, I want my family to come to work with me as much as possible. I want us to go do fun things. I want to work with my friends. I want to, hang out with my friends and family. And, like, it's all, like, the same.
Right.
It's not,
Yeah.
You're not doing different things. Everything's the same. So, like, I'm never not working, but I also don't ever feel like I'm actually at work too. So it's like
yeah, that's the kind of life you want to build. I mean, I was kind of surprised your wife and daughter wasn't here today,
Yeah.
But same thing. I mean, maximizing that time, it goes by fast, and then incorporating them in the business. I'm kind of like you, Eda. If I'm in the recliner, I'm working. I'm posting equipment for sale, or, researching something, but, talking about going back to, like, starting on your own and learning the business. If a guy, I always say, I wish I would have gone to work and then went to college. That way I kind of had some real life work skills and kind of knew what I wanted to do, then go back to school, and then I would absorb more.
Yeah.
When I went to college, I just wanted to, study fraternity and happy hour, and the blue light there in Lubbock. But, but coming out, I figured out real quick, and I come from a family that's get a good job with benefits and pension, and, stay there and don't get into sales, don't take, too many risks, that kind of deal. And I figured out real quick, I thrived on commission-based sales, and I, as a territory sales rep, and I loved it. And I was structured about where I went every day, and I was consistent where I would go, the customers I would see, and then I would go to the customer. There's so many salesmen out there that'll go and never ask for the business. They're talking about the Cowboys, football game, what went on in town this week. They never ask for business. That's an important part of sales, actually ask them for the business. And I learned real quick, you can be aggressive and be a problem solver for them, get involved in their business, and then, talk to the guys on the ground, about what they're seeing, not just, the people in the office. But I was structured about I always see sales reps, and they come by for me. I have vendors, and they're just wandering around. They'll hang out an hour, never ask me for anything. They're just visiting, and then they leave.
I saw a clip of Jeremy Miner, who's a big sales trainer, and I see his stuff all the time. Like, I engage with some of his content, so I see his ads and all this all the time. But this one was pretty good. He said, kind of on that same note, he was talking about the small talk that anybody that's in sales, it always starts, or anybody's received a sales call. It's like, hey, this is so-and-so, how's your day going? And talk about the weather, like you said, the Cowboys, whatever. And Jeremy was like, no, he's like, be aggressive. Like, you don't have to be threatening, but just be like, well, I'm talking to you today. Like, how's your day going or whatever? Or what are you doing today? It's like, well, I'm just calling you because I want your business.
Right.
Just be upfront about it.
Here's it.
And he's like, it'll work more than you think.
I'm sure
everybody wants to beat around the bush, but I don't. Like, I haven't, I'm not, I post about my lack of sales skills all the time. But yeah, I wanted to try that. Just, hey, I'm here to offer you my product and service. Say yes or no, whatever,
Yeah. Just get to it quick. Some guys, I appreciate that. Just come in, tell me what you got, tell me how it'll help me, and get out. I'm busy. I'm sure you've seen that with credit card processing and stuff.
Yeah.
You go into a business and they're all busy, right? Working registers and this and that. Like, get in,
man, I had
sell the value and get out.
The worst I've seen. This guy, he also pulled up at the wrong time. It was also lucky and not, but I was moving my cows by myself from my parents across the road, just our little county road, to my place, and I was I remember if I actually pinned them. What exact? Oh yeah, I was moving them. I was going to pin them and then haul them to another place. Anyways, and I'm doing it by myself. Well, inevitably, like a couple, like break and run off and stuff, and so I go turn some dogs loose. It goes to chaos pretty quick. It should have been an easy deal. Well, this guy pulls up in this car, and because I was moving him across the road, I had the gates locked open. Usually, we have electric gate up there that this guy wouldn't have been able to get in. Well, I'm doing all this and trying to get these cows to the pen, and it's not going good. I was doing a little cussing and getting kind of mad, and I look, and this guy's sitting in the driveway in this car with his window down, and I'm just like, who the heck? I don't know who it is. So I'm like, This is weird. He just pulled up the driveway. So I run across there to head this cow, and he's like, hey, I'll wait. And I was like, okay. So jack around there for a little while. It takes me a little while. Get the cows pinned, get the dogs put up and stuff, and he finally pulls down there to the pens. And I'm very curious who this guy is and why he would stick around this whole time. Like, this takes several minutes. And then so he proceeds, it's a sales deal. He goes to talking about small business and stuff. I'm not going to say what it was for and all this, and goes through this long, and plus it's getting hot. It's like in the afternoon, and goes through this long deal. And I just want to be like, dude, like, ask something of me. I'm literally busy. Like, you can see it's some chaos. Now. I'm literally busy right now.
Or jump out and help me.
Yeah, I mean, I can't. I don't want to be mean because I'm in sales also. So like, I don't appreciate just somebody being rude, but you also want to respect people's time, But I mean, that's an objection that a lot of people just say, "Well, I'm busy. Just send me the stuff or whatever." Mm-hmm. And but I was like, literally, like, read the situation.
Read the situation. That's right, man. Yeah, you're right. And I've done that too. I've gone into a job site, cranes are in the air, this and that. Everybody's welders are going, and here I am trying to ask,
Mm-hmm.
Hey, you got a minute? You come down off that man lift. Let me talk to you about equipment, or No, you're right. You're right. Yeah. And sometimes there's a meeting going on. Don't just hover around. Drop your cards off and come back. Follow up. Know your audience. I have that a lot too. I'll be literally talking to a customer out in the yard, and a salesman will pull up, try to get right in the middle of the conversation. Hey bud, just wait a minute.
Yeah.
But yeah, I get
or
that
come back or something.
Yeah. Well, talking about like sales, and I consider like a commission-based salesman. He's got a lot of freedom, right? If you're a traveling salesman or territory rep, there's a lot of an entrepreneur there because you've got to manage your time every day. Hit the ones that count. Know which ones you need to see every week, which ones do you need to see every month. You want to try to maximize your time and build your territory wherever you're going. I always joke I could get more done in half a day than most of these sales reps could get done in a week. I mean, they weren't making good calls. They were driving back and forth across the county 4 or 5 times a day rather than having a route, and they weren't managing are you going to spend 1 day a week, 4 hours a day that week with a guy who's going to spend $100, or are you going to go try to put your time and effort into a guy that's going to spend $100,000? You don't want to spend too much time on something that's not going to make you money.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely balancing that out.
I'm sure you've seen those too, when you've read people. But I do tell people, like, if you're thinking about getting into business, get you a sales job. You'll figure out real quick, whether or not you like being the front man, talking to people, and a service-based business is great too because there's problems. Like when we were in equipment rental, there would be problems with the equipment. Well, they're not calling my service department. They're calling me as a sales rep. And that's tough because then I have to manage the store, and manage expectations with the customer. All right, you're an hour drive, the mechanic's an hour on his last job, so you learn a lot of that. You're the front man, and then you're representing your customer back to your company, So I'm an advocate for the customer calling my store going, hey, this guy's a priority. I need to get somebody out here. They need this equipment. I know it's 4:00 in the afternoon, but they need it today. And so is managing expectations back and forth both ways. Yeah. There's so much of that in customer service is managing expectations. Like I told you, I sell used equipment. Well, something you paid 20% the price of new, you can't expect it to act like new. You manage that a truck with 200,000 miles isn't going to do the same as a brand new truck off the showroom. So it's managing that expectation. Like it's priced at a discount for a reason. It's used. It's at the end of its life cycle or whatever. So it's managing those and trying to be upfront with people. And then being available when something does go wrong. I'm sure you deal with that in your business.
Yes, it's just like you said. I mean, that's the most important thing I think, and a lot of it is just the relationship.
Yep,
building a relationship, and like you said, if you're my customer, I'm going to go back and fight for you with my company, but I also have to have my obligations from that side too. So but also, I want it to be a win-win for
both
everybody.
ways. Yeah, that's right.
And also that comes with knowing your client, knowing that you don't want every client, like everybody's not your client. So learning to say no. I don't know how it was for you when you got started in it, but it's like, I don't think this is going to be a right fit. Like, especially now that I'm further along, I'm like, I don't think it's going to be a fit for us.
Yeah.
And also that comes with now I'm wanting the bigger, better customers. But, I try to help those people, the small or whoever it is. If it's not going to be a fit, I'll be like, you're in a good situation already, or go over here, trying to help them still.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes that's a good point. Sometimes you got to fire a customer. And that's tough because you want every piece of revenue you can, especially when you're the business owner. You need every dollar matters. But some people you just can't please, and they're not worth your time. They don't, their expectation is a lot different than yours, and you got to let them go.
Yeah.
And sorry, man, we're just not going to see eye to eye here. You're better off going somewhere else. I'll tell people that. So I try to read the situation, but going back to I managed. I was going to say that after I was a sales rep, I managed a branch, a local branch, and that taught me a lot about cost and employees, that style of management, and that's not as much fun and glamour as selling. Being out there on the road and in front of the customers. But I learned a lot on that too. Going back to you have to protect the company you're working for too. And you can't just put $200,000 piece of equipment out for $500. The return's not there if you're renting it.
Yeah.
And you got to think about those kind of things. You have rental costs and utilities, and
Yeah, that's a whole different skill set. Most people think like if you become good at sales and just speaking and communicating in general, they think you're going to be a good manager, but it's not always a good fit. But that is the next step. Like if you want to scale, like as a salesman, if you're in a decent industry, with some opportunity, you could get to high six figures a year, 7 figures, low 6 figures to just be decent at it and in the right opportunity. Of course, it depends. Like you were in a corporation, so you may not have had the commission structure to do that. But like that's how I think of it. Like you can get in the right opportunity. Once you learn the skill, get pretty good at it, you can make pretty good money. And then your next step would be to manage a sales team or the manager of a branch or something like that. But become a manager of a bunch of other people, whole different skill level. Like you said, you got to learn a whole different side of the business. But then that could take you in the right opportunity again. That can take you to the 7-figure step, or bump you up from the low 6 figures to mid or high 6 figures, and then 7-figure step. Like that's the next step. Like that's where I'm at. Like I'm still very low, but the sales level, I'm like, once I get to a certain point, like my personal production is only going to take me so far. I'm going to have to learn how to manage people, which is just a whole nother deal in itself to get people motivated, to get them to sell. And I know because I've dealt with a little bit on my own, and then also like hearing other people, like they're like I'll go out there and kill it, but how do I make this guy want to go out there and kill it?
That's the thing. Yeah. Not everyone's motivated the same way you are. You know, most people are risk averse. They want just that guaranteed paycheck and, you know, the benefits and things like that. And they're happy with what they know they're going to make. And, you know, they want to go to this place at 8 a.m. and come home from that place at 5 p.m. and know where they're going to work, their work environment. You know, they control what they can control, you know. But yeah, motivating others to be, being a sales leader, that's hard too. Especially, you learn a lot when you work for somebody else as a sales leader. Same thing, if you're the sales rep, you're trying to represent your customer and your company. But as a sales leader, if you're middle management, you don't make the rules. So there's only so much you can push a person. And then you can only make so many decisions to diversify that business or, that territory, or, so you're kind of limited there. It was the big country guys from San Angelo you had on, right? They're equipment rental guys too. That's a capital intensive business. And we've dabbled in some rentals. I'll rent a scissor lift or a trailer here and there, but talk about the risk involved with that. But if those guys own a fleet of $10 million, they need to make a revenue of probably 2 to 5% a month off of that, or more. And equipment costs have doubled since COVID. But so they're having to worry about the sales side, and they've got all this capital out there tied up, in rental equipment. I'd say rent houses or these storage units, we're figuring out, it's a slower payout, but managing people. Yeah. Good luck. Yeah. But you need to, you're right. I mean, whether you do need like you say, your money needs to be making money without you touching it every day, and having salespeople out there earning commissions, and it's coming back to you too. However your system's set up, if you make a percentage of what they make, I think a lot of sales leaders are that way. The better your salesmen do, the better the sales manager does too. That's a good setup. There's incentives for both people there. Yeah. On that system,
I want to go, there's something you brought up that I want to go back to before we got way off in the sales conversation. Going to college, like what did that look like? You said you didn't know what you wanted to do or anything. Yeah. Was it just like when I went, it was like, it's just expected. Like if you want to be successful in life, you got to go to college. Was that kind of like how you were? DX Trailer Sales is based out of Lubbock, Texas, and it's definitely not just a trailer dealership. If you are involved in the Western way of life, and if you're listening to this show, you probably are, they have something you need. From trailers for a day working cowboy to a full-time cattle hauler to hay trailers for a farmer or rancher to arena drags, rope and chutes, and feeders for the rodeo cowboy or cowgirl. They also deal in every kind of hay any of your animals could ever need. Literally anything you need for farming, ranching, or rodeoing, they have something for you. And it's going to be at a super affordable price. Besides all that, everyone you deal with there is super friendly and helpful. We just got new custom flatbeds built for our pickups, and I also got probably the coolest trailer you've ever seen built. And you can stay tuned for a video we're gonna do, and it's gonna show all of that and some more of their products also. So check out DX Trailer Sales on Facebook or dxtrailers.com.
100%. Yeah. Everybody, you go to college, you're gonna be a coach, a teacher, an accountant, an engineer. It kind of goes back to, we can talk about my politics in a little bit, but my brother, my dad, I come from a blue collar working class family, and my brother and dad are both engine mechanics, natural gas engine mechanics, oil and gas. That's what took us out to Pampa, Texas. And that's the reason I ended up going with Warren Catt. When I got my job at Warren Catt, I ended up being a petroleum engine sales rep. But yeah, going into college, it was like, I went undecided that first semester. And then I went political science thinking, okay, well, maybe I can get into law school, or then I figured out real quick that they probably wouldn't take me. But, and then just the networking is the biggest thing I gained from college at that point. And I did know in high school, so my senior year, I only went to school till noon. You know how that I had all my credits, so I went to school till noon. Once I was accepted to Texas Tech, I knew that I wanted to be in a fraternity. And I'd had friends that went at fraternity, and I understood the networking there, and the brotherhood. So I started saving my money. So I went to school with that in mind. And I would say the networking, the friends that I made in college, especially my fraternity. Like today, I told you I'm going on a hunting trip when we leave here today. Those 3 guys that I'm going with, we were pledge brothers in our fraternity, and we talk every day. One lives in Houston, one lives in Aledo, and one lives in Midland. But we talk every day. We're best friends, and we try to go on a hunting or fishing trip every year, and stay in touch. And those things, your networking can lead to other business opportunities. I joke, I call those guys my board of directors. So we have, a funny guy text, whatever. But a lot of things that I'm thinking about doing, whether it was running for office or starting my business, I'm texting them. What do y'all think? What are y'all doing? What have y'all seen in your experience? But the networking, from college. But I slowly going into the ag business, College of Agriculture. Like I said, I thought about getting into banking. And I think it was First Ag Credit or somebody. They're like, yeah, we'll take you and we'll start you out in Liberal, Kansas. I'm good. I'll do something else. So one of my professors had a flyer, and he said, hey, Warren Caterpillar's got a leadership development program, and they take a couple guys every year. So joined up with them, and so that, and I loved it after that. Went through Warren Cat, learned a ton about business through that program, all aspects of their business, parts, service, tractor sales, engine sales, used equipment marketing. That was a really good program to go through. So try to absorb that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, college was fun. I'm sure you saw it too. You went to Tarleton, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And, when you're 18 years old, you're worried about having fun and going tailgating and meeting girls or, whatever.
That's what I was, I just heard this the other day explained pretty well. They're talking about how this guy, I remember now exactly what it was. So this guy has built, I think he's in his early 20s. He built the AI company that is worth like $1 billion or something. So whatever it was, is huge. And he's a big majority owner in it and started it. And so they were talking about, should you go to school or something? And they're like, really, I don't even see the need in going to high school anymore with AI, how it's changing and stuff. And they got talking about college, and just thinking in my experience and like a lot of other people I've talked to, it's like, you don't learn anything in college anyway. You just go because you're going to go meet people and hang out, kind of find yourself and chase girls and have fun and just meet people and kind of decide a little bit of what direction you want your life to go.
Yeah.
It's not really for the education, unless you go super specialized.
Right. Yeah. If you want to be a petroleum engineer or, whatever, if you want to be ranch management or something, you want to, like TCU is a place to go. That's what I want to do. And, but yeah, you do learn a lot of life skills. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of guys go to college, they've been babied their whole life. Mama picks up their shoes when they get home. They didn't work in high school and don't have work ethic. So it does teach you to live on your own, start managing your money. You got to make sure your underwear are clean. Mama ain't going to be there to do it, And in Lubbock, you have roommates. You split it up. I guess every college is that way, but I learned to manage my money too, especially when we start talking about happy hour and stuff. Start too early in the week, you're broke by Friday. And I did work on campus in college, and I joke. My saying is like, my wife's a 4.0. She's straight A student through high school, college. She's got 2 master's degree, 4.0 in both of those. And I'm like, C's get degrees.
Yeah.
Like my degree looks the same as yours. Yeah. But I joke with that. I did graduate with honors from high school, but you're right. I just went to school and managed to get through it.
Yeah. I think it's very, we were kind of raised right there. Like our parents saw the path to success. And mine was the same way. Mine didn't go to college, but dad was always on me, like, you need to get your grades up. And I remember I got a D, I think my first semester in algebra, put out no effort in the class, barely went. It was an 8 a.m. class, and passed it with like a 60.7 or something. And he's like, mad. And I'm like, that's still passing. Right. Like, all I got to do is pass. He's like, no, when you go get a job, they're going to look at your GPA and all this. And I'm like, and now, especially now in the real world, like,
no one's ever asked me for my transcript.
I don't see anybody that cares now. A lot of them, don't even care about diploma. Some corporate jobs or something might, but mainly it's like, do you got it? And then what experience do you have? And a lot of companies, want to hire off of experience. What life experience do you have? What experience in this exact job description do you have? And like, if you come straight out of school, you have no life experience. Like, nobody wants to hire you.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's 100%. That's where farm kids and stuff come in because they've worked on things and, they've got some life experience too. It's funny you say that too. I can't remember who said it, but it was like A students work for B students work for C students, right?
Yeah.
Elon Musk has said it too. Everything you need to know is on the internet for free.
Yeah.
So you don't necessarily need a formal education to learn. You're not restricted to your degree to learn, But again, sales is a good way for someone who's not specialized in something. Sales is a good way to get ahead with not being an engineer or, some kind of doctor, scientist, whatever. Just a general sales rep, whether it's cars or equipment or, processing equipment,
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen it. I remember before I got into sales, I was always like, I started listening to podcasts and I was like, there's a bunch of sales people on there and stuff. And I just skip over those. I don't even listen. I'm like, oh no, I don't need to do that. And then I got to thinking and I did go back and listen to some. And then I was like, maybe it's an opportunity. Because like when I was looking for opportunity to make more money, kind of, the people you're around, like you start a fencing company, metal building company, real estate agents are huge, probably all over. Like you can throw a rock and hit a real estate agent. And I was like, I don't want to do any of that. I was like, first of all, fencing, welding, all that stuff. I know a little bit about it, but it's never really got me going.
Yeah.
And plus it's capital intensive. You got to go buy a skid steer. You got to buy a welder. You're going to getting a loan for $100, or more, a couple $100,000 or whatever to start this business. Real estate was like, it's way easier. You got to take some classes, pass the test. But I'm like, there's 10 realtors in our little bitty town.
Right, yeah.
Plus all the ones outside, plus all the ones I know on Facebook, or actually know in real life. Yeah. I'm like, I'm not saying I couldn't, I might could have had success, but I was like, that's too much competition, and I can't remember. There's somebody that said that, like, if you want a monopoly, like you go for a monopoly.
Yeah, it'd be nice, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but if you can't have a monopoly, like you only want a few competitors. So I'm like, what's something that nobody knows about? And I found life insurance first. I was like, I don't know anybody that's just a life insurance broker. So I was like, I tried that. And then also credit card processing, like nobody in our industry, like I never even knew that was an industry.
Right.
And so I was like, yeah, we'll do that.
Get that. Yeah.
And
that's like, you make that sale and it kind of keeps paying a little bit. Keep going, right? Yeah. It's not a one-time commission and done. So you do get some residual income off the sales, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But the whole point of that story was like, it was super low barrier to entry.
Yeah.
I didn't have to go out and get a loan to start this, to start it.
That's a good point.
And it has a big upside. And I tell people all the time that ask for opportunity, like you're gonna have to. I had a lot of resistance at first because that's what, like Bradley, that's who broke me into this whole space, and that's what he's like. If you want to increase your income, he's like, you got to get in a position to receive commission,
right?
And it detaches you a little bit from your time to money. You're not out there digging a ditch by the hour. You're getting paid on your production. So I tell people all the time, like, get into some kind of sales, find a product or service that you believe in and that has opportunity, and go for it.
Yeah.
And it's uncomfortable, but you need to learn it. And all these huge entrepreneurs have a background in that, because it makes you break out of your shell, and then they get into the having people under them, but they know how to manage them, and you can build a company around that. But first, you got to be able to break out of your shell and like go talk to people and stuff.
Yeah, sales does it. That's, like I say, that's a good way to get your people skills honed, your business skills, your time management skills. Yeah, And especially if you're a like a 1099 type salesman, where you're paying for, that you might get mileage or something, but you don't want to waste your mileage or your time or something. That rental equipment's the same way. You get residual income too, and you might get turned down 10 times, but you're sowing a seed every time you go there. You're seeing that customer, you're finding out what his needs are, what he's using right now. What can I do to differentiate myself from my competition, or you're on his mind constantly. So when he has a problem, he calls you first. Well, this guy has been coming by here every week. I'm going to give him a shot. There were so many times that I started out with a small rental, whether just a little $100 a month, plate packer or something, but it turned out to be $1 million customer or something because I just got in the door. I was there. I was constantly asking him if he needed something, trying to meet his needs, and it opened up. And then once they rent something, you just keep getting paid on it. So that worked out really good.
Let's jump forward to your experience with starting your own business. I know you had the luxury of starting it on the side. Like, what was that like? Was it immediate takeoff, or was it slow? Did you have to learn a lot of lessons throughout that?
Yeah. A little bit of both. So, when you're buying used equipment, especially, you make your money in the buy. You've talked about that a lot on your show with stuff. I mean, cattle and trailers and everything else are the same, right? But so you learn to buy good quality stuff, and then so you're constantly networking for where you can buy stuff. But the first thing I did, and I'm a Dave Ramsey guy. I think you are too, right? It was like
a little bit, yeah.
We paid off our house in 8 years, paid off my student loans by the time I was 28. That personal finance matters first. Before you even think about starting your own business, you better have your personal finances in place. And then, so once we paid off student loans, paid off the house, then we could use the house as some equity. So when I first got started, I had cash because I had a good paying job. I had saved up cash. And then we had equity in our personal home that I could get a line of credit. So when I first got my used auto dealer's license, got a line of credit so that I could buy vehicles, better vehicles, and then it was just managing that, make sure I could sell them in time before the interest was due or whatever, but it was just dabbling in it, not taking too much risk at first. And then I got my trailer's license and I could buy 10 trailers at a time rather than one, so having the financing up front. But you got to have your personal finances in order. If you're broke, living paycheck to paycheck, you can't afford a flat tire, do not even think about starting your own business. Even if you're mowing lawns, if you can't afford for that lawnmower to break down, don't even get into it.
Yeah,
that was
tough.
always a big, yeah.
That's where I started from was zero.
Was broke, yeah.
But like I said, I didn't put any capital up. I just got into sales. If you have nothing, you can get into sales and make some money. But yeah, I see these people that actually build businesses like yours, like equipment businesses and different things, that they have the ability to start on the side. So they have their personal, so they're able to invest everything back into growing the business. And I'm like, dang, what a luxury.
Yeah. Yeah. It is. I mean, if you set yourself up in the right place, and then you're not so stressed if you're not making that sale, you have the comfort of your job. And my wife worked too. She was a teacher, and, we had her income as well, but you've been to our place. So we were renting a lot in town at the time, a little shop, and the lady wouldn't sell it to me. So at that point, we had the land next to the house, and we're right there. We got highway frontage, and I decided it was like, all right, we're going to come back home. I'm just going to work out of the shop at the house. We'll park stuff on the highway. Again, I'll save up. And so we eventually built the shop that I have now, and so I've got my yard now. And that was another thing. Not paying rent was important to me, because I was paying her rent and she wouldn't sell me the facility. And I was like, I feel like I'm giving away my money every month, and I'm not building equity in that property. And we already had it. So that was the next move, was to, I think we started in 2019 or 2018, building that shop where we're at now. So that was another thing. So now the business is operating out of the shop. The shop is building equity every year. And, and I'm basically paying myself rent on that, but slowly the things that you learn, I've taken a hit. I've had something stolen. I've had things that weren't worth $3,500 need a $4,500 motor. You learn, you pay for your education on some of those. But again, if your financial house is in order, you can afford some of the setbacks. And that's the thing with most 9-to-5 or day job guys. They can't afford the setbacks mentally or financially, but you got to set yourself up to where you can afford some of the hits you're going to take along the way, and upset customers. But, it goes back to like, if you're thinking about getting on it, you've got, if you're just running around, you have no point every day, you have no plan, you just get in the truck and you're driving around, you're not going to make it as a business owner. You've got to have a plan, that weekly plan, that monthly plan, and then that 5-year plan. Here's where we want to be. It's not easy every day, but if you have a plan and you're prepared for the things that are going to go wrong a little bit, you can't forecast everything, but things don't hurt so much. The day-to-day problems don't hurt so much. If you can plan, like coming down here today, I won't be there. What am I going to do if something goes wrong or things need to be taken care of? You're making plans ahead of time. Call this guy if you need something. I'm telling my wife I'm going to be out of pocket for a couple hours. But most people are just flying by the seat of their pants. But planning and preparing and saving a little money. Most guys, and I see businesses. What is it? The percentage of small businesses that go out? 80% or something within the first 5 years, something crazy, isn't it?
I think it's in the 90s.
Yeah, it might be higher. But you see restaurants. Restaurants are bad. Mm-hmm. Okay, I can cook a good steak. That doesn't mean I'm going to operate a restaurant. And they go in with not enough capital to survive the downtimes too.
I heard somebody say that the other day. Restaurants are notoriously a bad business model. But like people have been wildly successful with it, like Tillman Fertitta. Has that chain of restaurants, casinos, resorts. But so it can be done. But most people is like you said, somebody cooks good and they're like, oh, I want to open a restaurant. They're a good cook. The food may be good, but the business, like they know nothing about business, the business model. And then it ends up failing in a year or two.
I see it a lot in the oil field. So I sell a lot of equipment to the oil field companies for surface rentals, light towers, generators and stuff over the years. That's been a lot of my business, being in Oklahoma and West Texas, the oil and gas business. Well, that's very cyclical. Well, you'll see a guy, whether he's a salesman in the oil field or anybody in the oil field, even working on a rig, he's making, in the high $100,000-$200,000 range or something. He's buying boats and jet skis and a brand new house, and mama's driving a Cadillac. Well, then a downturn happens. He gets laid off. Everything gets repoed. And I see business owners do that. And I can be guilty too. I'll have a great month. I'll make like my quarterly budget in a month, or something. Well, let's go buy something. I think I need a new truck or I need a new bass boat. No, wait a minute. I know now, I have enough years under me now that I know everything eventually sells. And I know that not every month is going to be as good as, you might sell, 20 pieces of equipment this month and next month 4. So I see that a lot in oil field guys. They've got all the nicest truck and everything and nothing's paid off. And then when there's a downturn or something wrong happens, they lose it all.
Yeah.
Again, having your personal finances in order and keeping your business, plenty of capital on hand for, whatever happens. I mean, hailstorm, and you need a roof on something if you don't have the coverage or you never know. Yeah. I mean, tornado hits my yard and wipes out all my equipment. Man, am I going to be able to survive that? Being in Oklahoma.
Yeah, it's, I've found myself like, it's like a reminder I have to remind myself. I need to be excited about making the money, not spending the money.
Right. Yeah.
So it's like,
I've always been to pay myself first or pay my future first.
Mm-hmm. My mindset has to be, get very excited about prospecting, very excited about outreach. And then when you make the sale, when you close the deal, very excited about that. And then instead of being excited about all the packages coming in the mail or like you said, going down to the lot, buying something or going on vacation or something. And it's like, that's what most people get excited about. And me too. And then I have to be like, whoa. We have to shift back over here to what led to all of this.
Yeah.
Let's get back excited about the inputs of what the output. Like take the focus all off of that, which is what most people, you get hung up on.
It's hard to stay hungry when you have success too.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You get hung up on the end.
Mhm.
Why do I not have this? Why do I not have that? And it's like, just get excited about doing this more consistently, and then all this other stuff just falls into place. It's funny. Every brand out there claims they've built the ultimate Western performance shirt, but most of them are more involved in other industries. Finally, there's one that actually is different. Introducing Horn Knot. One detail changes the game. This has literally never been done before. A patent-pending hidden zipper pocket with an extendable lens cloth, so you can clean your shades or your phone without untucking your shirt. It's simple, smart, and practical. I also like that you can fit your phone in the front pocket. And here's what I love. Horn Knot kept their designs classic, the most traditional pearl snaps you'll find anywhere. Great colors and vintage pocket designs. These are the same shirts I wear to work in, and you've probably seen me wearing them right here on the podcast. They even built a ladies line, not fake pockets or bad fits, but real Western shirts built to flatter and function. My wife Shady shows and works in these shirts, and there's nothing else like them.
Get yours today and save 20% with code Crockett at hornknot-brkwy.com. Horn Knot and Breakaway. Learn more at hornknot-brkwy.com.
I see you like on your solo episodes when you talk about a lot of the foundations and fundamentals. That's you're exactly right, and you can get hung up on your success, and then you forget, or you're just like in your business where you have those repeat customers, and you'll just take care of the customers you have, and you're not prospecting for new ones. Well, eventually you're going to lose an old one. So if your pipeline's not full of new customers and new prospects, at some point it's all going to catch up. Yeah. All of a sudden you're like, where'd my business go? So you have to do that, and take care of your foundation. It is hard to stay hungry when you have success or you make a little money. Well, I'll just take off next week. I made my month's budget. Yeah. I'll just go somewhere next week. But constantly sowing seeds and remembering the foundations, taking even I'm bad about this too. Talking about oil and gas, I'll sell 10 light towers to one guy. That's a big sale for me. Well, then Johnny homeowner will come and want one little thing. And it's like, well, he's just as important as the guy who bought 10 of this, my little guy, or I'll have those commercial customers that will buy just yearly annual equipment for their fleets. Well, the guy who buys one thing a year is just as important as the guy who buys. I don't want all my eggs in that guy's basket. You know what I mean? If you just have a handful of big customers, if you lose one, it hurts a lot more than if you've got 100 small customers. I always try to remember that too. And even when I was in the rental equipment business, I would try to focus on the small dollar customers too. I'd rather have a lot of those than one big one, because then all my eggs are in one basket.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And talking about like rolling into storage units, if you want fast money. I'm sure you're seeing that too in like the credit card payments and stuff. Even with cattle, right? Like if you're buying bred heifers, it's a long payout or whatever. Real estate is a long-term deal, long-term thinking. You got to be thinking 10, 15 years down the road. And one of my mentors that I had on, my second guy on my podcast that I consider a mentor, he owns a bunch of storage units and commercial properties. And he was like, the target used to be like a 10-year payout. Well, with inflation and interest rates and everything else, 13 to 15 years on some real estate deals, depending on what you're buying. But the rental rates aren't there to cover the inflation cost of, real estate, and insurance has skyrocketed in Oklahoma, property taxes, So I'm getting a good education in real estate too, but I'm used to transactions. You are too, right? And you want daily transactions. Well, like in storage units, I'm blessed to have all mine are full, and they've pretty much been full since I've owned them. And
now it's boring.
Yeah, other than a few problems here and there, a garage door gets hung, or mine have an office, and a guy rents an office, and something will happen, there. But it's like I need to go up on my rates, but I've got good, solid renters, and they pay me every month. Very little calls. Man, I don't want to scare anybody off because they make it easy for me to own that place. Yeah. But it's going to extend my payout longer, but I'm learning the slower transaction of real estate. I'm trying to see the long-term gain you get from it.
I was listening to Diary of a CEO yesterday, and it was an episode he did with 3 guys. I don't remember the guys, but they were all like money finance guys, and they all had their own deals. Like one had a lot of rental properties. One was kind of more of a stock guy. Another guy was more of a crypto guy. But they were talking about stocks, and they're like everybody has like their different strategy, and you got your day traders, and then like your long-term investors, and guys that play it on a kind of a midterm deal or whatever. But and then you get emotional, like you take a big hit, and you're like, I got to get out, and then you sell, and then it bounces way back up. But they were saying that like the best, the accounts that perform the best are dead people, because it's like these people have died, but nobody's notified anybody. So they still have this account open, but nothing's happening. They just, the money's just sitting there in the same deal, not moving. And it just, keeps over a period of time, it just keeps going up. Whereas like if you're
watching it every day,
if you're watching it every day and you're emotional about it, you're like pulling in and out, like putting it over here and moving it.
Man, talk about retirement.
But just like be patient and just let it, let it.
You got to see the long-term gain. It's hard when you're young and you're, every dollar matters, and you just see short-term, excitement and gains. And that's why I say, we've been in business now 13 years. It's like, I know the ups and downs. I know the holiday season's a little slower. I know the last week of the year for a construction business or something, the last week they realize how much money they're going to spend in taxes. So they want that last week, they're like, hey, I need to buy something. We're going to need this many scissor lifts, or we need a trailer, and we need to spend it right then. Mm-hmm. So now I can forecast. I know that last week is going to be busy, but I know call it the turkey drop, I know between Thanksgiving and Christmas, it's going to be slow. I know when school starts, it's going to be slow. People's holding on to their money a little bit. When school starts, they're buying school clothes, this and that, or, vacation season, rainy day. For me, some days a rainy day is good because a guy's at home shopping. Yeah. But if you get a week of rain or snow, well, then he don't want to spend any money because he's not making money.
Yeah.
But I've figured those out. Experience, I've learned some of it the hard way, but the ups and downs, I realize now. And some things you'll buy and hold for 6 months, and you're like, all right, that was a bad deal. Then you have to, whether dump it at auction and take a hit, and can't get too emotionally attached to having to lose some every now and then.
I think that's a big lesson to learn, is knowing when to just, cut it loose. Like, it's like, no, I'm just going to hold on to it, and maybe somebody will come along. But if you cut that bad investment loose, like the horse or the cow or, piece of equipment or whatever it is, it's like, or truck, just cut it loose and then take that, whatever money you get back out of it, and go back and reinvest and you can make it up,
Right, yeah.
But it's like,
but you need to mentally build in the losses. It's like calves. I lost a calf this year, and she's laying on the ground. I'm like, that's $1,000 bill laying there.
Yeah.
But it's like, all right, we're going to have 5% loss or something, that's just part of it.
Yeah.
Especially with animals, but
it's crazy that people won't do it. And I find myself a little bit, but like, one of my buddies bought a feed store the other day, and, they had these syrup tubs in there that were like, they were practically giving them away. And I'm like, how they were in there? I don't remember how many years he said, but years. And I'm like, how do you hold on to inventory for that long? It's just sitting over there. Nobody's buying it. Nobody's interested in it. Yeah. And it's like, come, just give it away, or, give it nearly away.
Was it just like a single location feed store, like a mom and pop? And I'm guilty of you bring up a good point there too with family owned businesses. You go to Walmart, and Walmart, you don't negotiate the price at Walmart. If the inventory isn't moving it, they move it to whatever Big Lots, or somebody buys their inventory that sits. They're not parking grandma's old car in the back, or their boat's not parked in the back of Walmart. A small family business, you need some, you need to keep your place in order. Yeah, you're exactly right. You can't hold on to something for a year. If it's in the way and it's taking up your money, get rid of it. Put it on sale, move it out the door, give it away, put it in a garage sale, whatever. But I think family-owned businesses are bad about, we get emotionally attached to things, and we don't see, or we're short-sighted on, well, my truck, I'm working on it once a month, or my forklift in the yard. Gosh, I don't want to spend $50,000 on a new one, but a big business will account for that. They'll depreciate it out over 7 years or whatever. When it's all useful
numbers.
life.
It's not emotional.
Yeah, that wasn't Grandpa's tractor on the farm. If it's not profitable or it's costing you more in heartache or whatever, don't hang on to it. Don't be afraid to let something go. Now it's different if it was 5-generation family farm, or if that was Grandpa's horse, let him die, retire on the farm or something. You know what I mean? But you can't be afraid to cut your losses.
Yeah.
Too many people do that. And I see it in most of my customers are small business owners. And they make the mistake of becoming too friendly with their employees. I struggle with that too as a manager. It was, once you're emotionally invested with employees, really hard to discipline them or get rid of them. But they can cost your business, or hiring family can cost your business. When it's a family operation, brother-in-law's kid, he can cost you a lot of money and liability. And, those are things you got to think. But small businesses are, bad about that.
Yeah.
That's one thing that people need to work on, is not being so emotionally attached to the business. That is your baby, but don't be so emotionally attached to something about your business that you can't change. Like, well, we've always just sold these trailers. Well, that's not what people want. Maybe you need to change, or diversify a little bit.
Right.
But
let's talk about marketing. That's kind of how we met with the social media marketing. How are you marketing when you started that little lot in town, and then how has that progressed? And then, because if you're in sales, you got to have marketing behind that. Then how's that progressed?
Yeah. So, and I'm not a technology person. I'm learning this as we go. And we've talked about that, about podcasts and social media. The reason we met, is newspaper. I have learned that you can diversify in marketing. Newspaper, magazines, Facebook, internet, you can do some of those things, and then sponsor your local clubs. But man, Facebook, since I've been started in 2012, Facebook was up and running, and Marketplace was coming along, and man, Facebook is really cheap advertising. It's easy and everybody sees it. You can boost it, but I still, like I said, I still use, and I started with the local newspapers, the little shopper magazines, and I would try to budget, all right, I'm going to spend $200 this month on newspapers, or, I'll give it to 2 or 3. And I'm bad about not turning down any school function that comes by. The small businesses are the worst. You'll spend thousands a year on sponsoring every cheerleader, baseball team, shooting club, FFA, rodeo. But you try to budget, your marketing, and you want to get the best bang for your buck. So over the years, I've gone to radio, and I have a website for my businesses, Facebook pages, So I try to diversify my marketing, and then community service. Over the years, to me, a business owner being out front in your community is probably one of the most important things you can do, especially if it's you sell things that are local, like trailers, that local people would use. But being involved in the community was early on, whether it was our Little League Baseball club, and I was on the board and was an officer in the Little League Baseball, and of course coaching, and sponsoring teams, and that led me into being on the boards of nonprofit organizations, and now I'm chamber president. So I'm president of our little chamber, and we've grown our membership. And to me, it's like that we go back to networking, and I tell our potential new members, like, this is a way for you to network and meet other business owners, and we can kind of collaborate together. And if your business is doing good, it's going to wear off on my business. If everyone else is succeeding, I'm going to. I don't want everyone to crash around me. So I consider myself a small business champion. I'm very involved with our chamber. We've had a lot of events to highlight our members. We're doing, I'm a retail business, but it's not like Walmart or something. But, we've got the boutiques downtown. Every small town's trying to, revitalize their downtown area. So we're going to do a holiday stroll, and again, when I go to a chamber function, I'm wearing my Frontier Equipment shirts, even my Frontier Mindset podcast shirt. You know, I'm constantly trying to be in public and serve my community with that. You know?
Yeah. Have you always been like a leader, I guess, in organizations involved in stuff like that?
Well, a little bit. I've always considered myself kind of like being involved with stuff, but never was like in high school. I never was like president of the Stuco or you know, things like that.
Did you just kind of realize it as you got into business that it was important?
Yeah. Yeah. And even when I was working in sales and stuff and going through college and being a manager, it's like you were starting to represent customers and employees, and it just started naturally coming on, you know, the importance of good management and good local communities. And so I was like, I just took off with it, started getting involved with more things. Was it
uncomfortable for you at first? Or?
Yeah, you know, you talk about it a lot too. Your speaking engagements and stuff. It's, I mean, I've always been an outgoing sales type person, very friendly. My Nana used to tell, my grandmother used to tell me, you just have a way to make people feel special. And that kind of stuck with me. And I was like, man, you know, like I can use that, you know, and people want to be heard. You know, and it's the same thing in the chamber. A lot of our new members have told me, or even our old members, this guy listens to us when we want to do something or do something new. This guy listens. So, you know, and I've seen other leaders. It's like, man, you can tell this guy, whether it was my manager or he doesn't care about people. He doesn't care about his customers. You know, he doesn't care about his community. So it's like, well, I better step up because I don't want the walls caving in around me. Yeah. Just like I said, if all the businesses are in town are doing good, well, I'm going to do good because it's going to, you know, if we're developing things in town and things are getting built and people's plumbing business is successful, they're going to buy equipment from me. And so I feel like it comes around.
Have you ever heard that deal, Mary Kay? That was her, you know, the makeup, cosmetics, whatever started Mary Kay. Her saying was it's something like everybody has a sign on their forehead that says, make me feel important. Yeah,
that's true. Yeah. And you never know who you walk up to. There was a lady out here, I came out of the restroom and she said, man, aren't you a handsome cowboy? And it's like, just a smile on your face. Yeah. And, you know, you never know that person you're going to walk up to, who you might network with and, you know, what you might learn from somebody. And you know, they may be a customer. Yeah. And I say that now running for office. It's like, I told my wife, everyone's going to know us. Well, we're not necessarily going to know them. So we just have to assume that, you know, we need to get to know them. We need to find out what their issues are and listen to them. Try to listen more than we talk.
Yeah.
You know, and I try to do that with customers, and even around town, and you know, whether it was baseball league or nonprofit board or the chamber. You know, what do y'all need? What's your business lacking in? Here's what I do, and you know.
How about starting the podcast? Where did that come from? If you didn't hear Ben Hale's story on episode 69, you need to check it out. He's been earning trust in the cattle industry one handshake at a time since 1995 at Western Livestock. Western Livestock is proud to be family-owned and operated now with 5 locations, Oklahoma City, Woodward, Comanche, and Waurika, Oklahoma, and also Knoxville, Iowa. They're proud to do business the Western way with honesty, integrity, and a handshake that still means something. You can join them ringside or stream their sales from wherever you are. Western Livestock, where a handshake is their word, cattle are money, and timing is everything. If you're looking to buy or sell, contact Ben Hale at 940-631-BEEF. That's 940-631-2333. Check them out on Facebook or westernlivestock.com. Western Livestock is now accepting consignments for their September 20th horse sale in Woodward, Oklahoma. Visit westernlivestock.com to learn more.
Yeah, so I've always watched podcasts. Big Rogan guy, you know, and I listen to the Founders podcast. I think you do too, right? Love that kind of stuff. I'm a biography guy. Like Sam Walton, you know, Harold Hamm, T. Boone Pickens, you know, you and I have shared some books, but I love podcasts. And then watching Rogan. And then when you started, I started watching yours. And I was like, man, I really like his. You know, yours more ag-based, Western theme and stuff, but it's entrepreneurship and leadership stuff that you talk about. And I had, you know, when you started doing the coaching, and I was like, man, I'm gonna reach out And because that was my thing, it was both technology and just, I don't know if I'd be comfortable recording myself, videoing myself, those type of things. And I knew that my business needed more of that, we were starting to see more of the reels and the shorts and stuff, and commercials. And I knew that I wanted to do more of that with the business. So that's why when I reached out to you, and it's like, I just need somebody to kind of kick me in the butt, get me going with it. And then I learned practice gets you more comfortable with it. I mean, do it a couple times, record yourself, talk to yourself in the mirror, And then with the podcast, I had bought my little equipment set 2 years ago, and I had played with it, recorded some things, recorded some things. And then once you and I kind of got hooked up and I started working some of it through the business, getting more comfortable hearing my own voice, and I'm just going to do it. So I recorded in October of last year. I recorded myself an intro. So that was in October, and you and I had started doing the coaching calls and that time.
I think November, December, somewhere in there.
And January, I had a real good friend, and he wanted to start a podcast. So here's what we can do. You be my first guest, and I'm just going to work out some kinks with you, and we're just going to do it. So we recorded it, not even knowing if I'd even post it. But man, it was a great conversation. Like I said, that first episode, about the 45-minute mark, you hear a dog barking. We just recorded in my office. It's where we've been recording them. And man, it's been so much fun. You say this a lot. You don't have to reinvent it. You can kind of copy what everybody else is doing. So I take a lot of cues from you or Rogan and them. And it's just, I try to get a background. I wanted my podcast to be more of entrepreneurship and local business, small business type stuff. It's kind of progressed into some politics. I've had a preacher on, several politicians. Mm-hmm. I've had a teacher. So all the things that I'll have them on the podcast that I'm interested in. And every time you learn something new. So right now I've just been doing audio, and then
is it just on Spotify?
Spotify, and then I feed it into Amazon Music and iHeart.
Okay.
So I started with Apple, but Apple's had some technical difficulties or something. So some of them are on Apple, but some of them aren't. And so my last episode I just recorded, he was with a candidate for governor, and he had a radio show and things like that. And I knew he would be comfortable on video, so I had my little DJI pocket, and I was, hey, do you mind if I record this? Well, the video was pretty terrible, but there's that extra feeling of there's a camera on you. You're not just talking, but there's a camera.
Yeah.
And so it was just getting comfortable on camera and learning, like this, we've talked about, you kind of got to budget your time during an episode, and your guest wants to kind of venture off into their own things, and you're trying to keep them in there and, keep the podcast going. And so it's been fun, and I'm learning a ton of stuff. Mm-hmm. I mean, from business, and I love to hear, you drive down the road and you see somebody sign, you see Frontier Equipment. Oh, that guy, he's got it going on, right? He's got the easy life. Mm-hmm. It wasn't that way, and everyone has those stories. No matter how big their business was, they've had struggles. They've had to balance family life, capitalization. They've had issues, access to real estate, access to capital, access to workforce. So it's been fun hearing their stories. Mm-hmm. And then most of them they're multi-business owners, or they're business owners and politicians, or, they're involved in multiple things. Like I just had a teacher on. She runs a career workforce internship type program at the high school, but her husband builds houses, and they have a family farm where they retail beef and stuff. So it was like we could talk about multiple things in one episode, and I just learned a ton.
Yeah.
And hopefully my viewers, the dozens of viewers that I have, are learning a bunch of stuff, and that leads to more networks. One guest will lead to the next one, and then I'll get feedback. Well, man, I liked what they said on this, and then I'll go, all right, I need to find somebody that's an expert on that. Or, so my next progression on the podcast deal is to add video. So hopefully someday I'll have a nice studio like you've got set up. And,
you just got to take the leap. That's like, that's what I've found kind of doing like some of the coaching and consulting and just talking to people in general. It's like you already know what, and this is in life in general, not just social media or anything. It's like, you know what you need to do.
Yeah.
And that's what a coach or a mentor or whatever is there for, is the
Somebody
accountability.
push you.
Yeah. And because somebody's going to hold you accountable to it, but like to lose weight,
Right.
move more,
You know what,
eat
dude,
less,
yeah.
basically. I mean, there's some variations, but that's basically it. Like if you just start exercising and eating less, eating cleaner, that's probably what's going to happen. If you, in sales, like you start talking to more people, you're probably going to make more sales.
That's right,
Like
yeah.
all these things, social media, if you want to gain followers or views or whatever, if you post more, you hit the post button more,
Yeah, that's
you're
true.
probably going to get more.
You got to put the line in the water.
Yeah,
catch
you're probably
fish.
going to get some of those results. So it's like,
That was what was good when you and I started talking, was like, I knew what needed to be done. I
Mhm.
see what everybody else is doing, but I was scared to do it.
Yeah.
Or I thought I'd look stupid. That's another, I mean, being on camera, if the chance of looking stupid are pretty high. You're going to say something
or
wrong.
you think you know,
think, yeah. You think you're going to look dumb, or, my wife, I told my wife, I hope I don't have something in my nose, or you don't lose your voice the day you need to record. There's so many things that can go wrong, but public speaking, you talked about that with Justin McKee.
Yeah.
Being in a room together, me and you can talk. I mean, we do have cameras, but public speaking is an issue.
Yeah.
For a
in
lot.
front of people.
That posted the other day, like most people, and you said that on one of your podcasts, most people would prefer to die than speak in public.
Yeah.
They'd rather
Public speaking is the
they'd be
number
able to
one
be
fear.
in the casket than preaching over it or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's another thing, that recording myself and learning things, it gets me more comfortable with speaking in front of people too, and being involved. Being an officer in an organization, a nonprofit's a great way to build your networking skills and your speaking skills and people relations. And being the chamber president, I get a lot of opportunities now to talk in front of people with luncheons and our little coffee meetings and stuff like that. But one thing leads to another. It's having a podcast is good for my equipment business, and both ways. Being involved in my local community is good for my other businesses, and they feed off each other. And I love business stuff. I mean, that's why I like listening to your podcast, and so many of your guests and stuff have been smaller businesses, and I love listening to nuts and bolts and goods and bads, and I learned something.
Yeah.
The podcast has been fun. I'm turning into, my next guest is another candidate for governor, but he also owns a bank. And, so he's a businessman that's gone into public service. And
What led you into that? You said you got involved in all these organizations kind of to get out there and benefit your business a little bit. What led you in? Because this is, I get the funniest text from you because we don't talk all the time. So it just comes out of nowhere for me. You're like, hey, starting a podcast. Here's first episode.
Yep.
And then the other day you're like, hey, I'm going to be a politician now. And it's like just out of nowhere. So it's pretty funny and cool.
That's kind of how business started. I came home one day with a skid steer, like in 2010, and my wife's like, what are you doing? Oh, I'm just going to flip it. What do you mean you bought a skid steer to buy it? Buy and flip it? But so politics wise, again, I've been serving on nonprofit boards and, in my local, chamber and stuff like that, and just kind of involved. And I've always been involved with politics. I've voted since I was 18 and kind of followed it, and been a part of my county Republican Party. But anyway, so my current state House rep, he has 6 more years on his term, and he's my age. His son's the same age as mine. He's like, all right, when the boys are 18, I'll term out. Perfect timing. His boy's his youngest. Then, that should have left us 12 more years. Well, this summer he decides he's going to run for corporation commissioner in Oklahoma. So that's going to vacate his seat next year. And again, I'd been involved locally and, had local leadership and stuff like that. And people are starting to call me, you're going to run for Brad's seat. And now let's find somebody else, somebody better place in their business, their kids, their financial, all the things that you need to run for office. And I had one guy in mind, a good friend of mine, my first podcast guest that I was telling you about. And his kid's a little older, he's a little more set financially and this and that. And he didn't want to run. So I told my wife, well, why would I send another man to do it? Or we take a chance of some jerk getting in there that we don't like. And that's what I said on my coming out speech was in public office, the chance for a man of pride and self-service. And, it's just these things that your everyday life, you don't think about, that you don't control, whether it's your taxation, your property tax. And again, I was already serving in the community. So yeah, I'll pick up the sword. I'll do it. So, I felt like we needed the small business owner, somebody who, we need more working class type people. I still consider myself a working class type person to hold these offices, and make decisions for us at the local level. So yeah, I'm gonna pick up the sword and do it.
Yeah. That's kind of how like I've progressed into several things. Like I didn't want to start a podcast, but I felt like they're like this, but or at all, but felt like it needed to be done. Yep. And then like, even in my business, I'm like, how I got into marketing and stuff, I'm like, I need somebody to do I wanted somebody to do social media stuff or website stuff or something like that. And it's like, nobody really cares about you or whatever, or it costs too much or something. It's like, okay, I guess I'll just sit down and learn it. I'll do it.
Yeah.
And it's always just like kind of other people of like same kind of deal. It's like, if nobody else is going to do it, it needs to be done. I'll go do it. Willow Creek Cattle Company develops and breeds hundreds of heifers a year for their customers. They can buy, develop, and AI heifers to the bull of your choice. They're located in Northeast Kansas in the heart of the Flint Hills. So they can also start and grow your grass cattle. The U.S. cow herd is currently at the lowest inventory ever recorded, and with these record high calf prices, Willow Creek Cattle Company can provide a turnkey supply of AI bred heifers to help you rebuild your herd. Give them a call for all your backgrounding and heifer development needs, 620-344-2795.
Yeah, with your show, I don't know that there's really any other show out there that ties, of course, Texas, but that ties the ag industry, the Western way of life, like the rodeo and stuff, back to business. And your show kind of touches on all those. So I think people locally can appreciate it, Texas, Oklahoma, that are in that culture. And then small business owners and entrepreneurs, wannabes, can appreciate your show because you're constantly talking about people who have come up, seen a need, they've done it. There's one thing to have a good idea. Everyone's got a good idea. Just like, your podcast. Everybody thinks they want to be Joe Rogan. But what am I going to talk about? But anyway, it's good one thing to have a good idea, but you need the confidence to do it. And then you need the toughness to see it through. Mm-hmm. That's another thing, about business ownership. And most people are risk averse, and they, that I get my paycheck every Friday. I know it's going to be there, and, or I don't want to look stupid. I can't start a podcast. I'll look stupid. What would I talk about? But you have to have the toughness to see things through. And we had plans for business and, growing our storage unit business. And my kids are now in middle school. They're busy. Their lives are busy, and running for public office, it was like, okay, same thing. I mean, there's things that need to be done, and it's going to take people who have the confidence and the toughness and the principle to do it. Oklahoma has the same problems as Texas: property taxes, growth, and then seeing our kids all have to move to the big city to get a job, and everyone's losing the farm, can't afford to stay on the farm, or, so I live in a very rural area, and that's my dream. We've got a small 46-acre place. I hope to 10X that someday or more, but I want my kids to stay home. So I want to create economic opportunity locally for them to stay home, and we have, our insurance rates have doubled. Our K through 12 education is struggling in Oklahoma, So there's things that need to be done, and like I said, why would I send another man to do it? Mm-hmm. How would I feel if some jerk got in there and, so here I go. and anything, I always tell people, just whether it's my business, sometimes I will lose money to help a customer. If I know it's a long-term gain for him, his business is going to succeed, it's going to come back to me. That's the same thing with giving my time to my community, whether through the chamber, anything that I can do to add value to my local community, and now my district and my state. Hey, send me, I'll do it. And I have figured out too, I'm not the smartest guy, but neither are they. People say that all the time. You know anything about government? Probably as much as anybody else there.
Yeah.
I mean, look where it's got us. Oklahoma's in a great shape. I mean, we've got probably the best tax policy. We're the reddest state in the country. We've got probably more freedoms than anyone else. They've banned abortion and lowered taxes, and they protected medical freedom through COVID. So a lot of the big ticket stuff has been solved. We can permitlessly carry. Our Self-Defense Act is probably the best in the country. But yeah, lowering taxes and making the barriers to entry for small businesses, lowering those, workforce development, teaching our kids that you can be a plumber, electrician, you can start a family farm. How can you go into an ag business? When I went to College of Agriculture, people were going to work for ADM, Cargill, the big feeders, a lot of corporate ag businesses, but ag business is small business when it's a family farm, So how can we, but you can't be so romantic about your farm that it can't be profitable. And if you own land, how can you use your land to make income? Green energy is a big deal in Oklahoma, just like Texas. The solar farms, the wind farms, and then oil and gas, water rights. Water's an issue. So there's some things we can work on, so I'm going to go at it.
Yeah.
So
that's cool.
Yeah.
It's cool to, like you said, just see. It's not like you wanted to do it or anything. It's like, if y'all aren't going to do it, I guess I'll do it.
Somebody's got to, It's kind of the way I see it. So, and hopefully whatever service I can provide benefits everyone else, keeps my family in a better place, and benefits everyone around me.
Yeah.
Kind of how I see it. So,
and I've been in your office before, and you've got a big bookshelf and a lot of books that I've read, and you turned me on to some. What are some of your favorite books?
Yeah, we've shared several of them. Probably, man, I would say T. Boone Pickens, The First Billion is the hardest. If you're a business guy, or Harold Hamm, or the Sam Walton biographies, love those. I love the Sam Walton story. And then, of course, like, I did read The Comfort Crisis. That's a good one. I think men in general need to take on more of an active role in adventure and stuff. But if Elon Musk's, the one that
Walter
Isaacson, that one is really good. And Liftoff, the other one about him, how he got started, those are really good. And then one that I read earlier this year, Service, by Marcus Luttrell. Have you read that one? It's a good one. You need to look up that one. I think it was his second book. I think his first one was Lone Survivor, and then I think Service was the second one. That's a good one. So,
what about other resources like podcast or something like that?
Definitely listen to my podcast, Frontier Mindset Podcast.
Number one.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, again, I learned so much from the Rogan podcast founders that if you understand even these huge mega companies like Tesla and SpaceX, if you understand where Elon Musk come from, or even Amazon, I don't agree with all of Jeff Bezos' stuff, but if you understand what Jeff Bezos gave up to start his business, he probably gave up the best years of his life to start Amazon, and now look at it.
I want to listen to. I was just looking at Audible books on the way up here. I need the Everything Store is been on the list, and I always forget about it.
Really? Yeah.
But that's his biography.
I need to read that too. See, I've just listened to founders and stuff on him.
I know we see these mega corporations as like kind of the enemy, Walmart, Amazon, especially like we've been talking about small business, but Elon Musk, like they're huge, but they didn't start out that way.
Right.
They started out with a lot of hard work, a lot of sacrifice, and I don't think, 99.9% of people aren't going to do the things that they did.
Sure.
But there's a lot of lessons in there.
Man, you talk about Sam Walton. That's a really good one. People like to throw rocks at Walmart, right? And how they've taken over retail. Well, if you look at how Sam Walton started, he came from nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And you had the same opportunity to build your business. Kmart could have been Walmart. You had the same opportunities that Sam Walton did. Look at Elon Musk. He's an immigrant, came here practically with nothing but a computer, started building games when he was a kid. Doesn't waste any time. He doesn't mess around, watching reels all day or whatever. He gets to work. He doesn't have spare time.
Have you read or listened to Outliers?
I don't guess so.
I just listened to that the other day. I just finished it the other day at Malcolm Gladwell and Outliers. It just talks about the Outliers Society, like Bill Gates. Can't remember all the different examples he uses, but he studies. He like broke down why are these people so successful.
Yeah.
He did like one example was a hockey league in Canada and professional hockey teams. All these guys were born in this certain like few months of the year, like the first few months of the year, because of the way the junior leagues are set up. They were a little bit bigger, a little bit further ahead, so they dominated ever since they were children, which led them to go all the way to be pros. And he's like, if there would have been a different league with different rules, you might have had a whole nother wave of people. Bill Gates. But he also ties it back. He ties opportunity back to hard work. Like everybody put in the 10,000 hours.
Yeah.
The Beatles, he brings up the Beatles. Like Bill Gates, though, when he was a kid, he got to be around some huge opportunities around there were hardly any computers in the world, and he was around some places where he could learn about computers. But he would sneak out of the house. He wouldn't sleep. He'd sneak out of the house in the middle of the night to go, mess around on the computer. So when he was like 18, he had more time on a computer than anybody in the world almost.
I'll have to check that one out.
The Beatles, same way. Before anybody knew who they were, there was a red light district in Germany that they would go play, and it was like people were coming in and out all the time. So they played 8 hours. They'd play all day, all night, whatever it was, 8-10 hours a day, because people were. You could just replay the same song because it was just people shuffling in and out all the time. So they got to practice a whole lot by the time they came back and like people actually started seeing them. They already had it all figured out.
They did. Yeah, the Cody Johnson story is similar. Like Cody played, he was working before he was, now he's, mainstream, but Cody Johnson put the work in, getting it done. Now, I need to check out the Outliers. I'll check that one out. Yeah.
What about some advice, some good advice you've got over the years that you would pass down?
Yeah. Again, if you're young or upcoming, or I guess at any age, but learn the Dave Ramsey strategy. Get your financial house in order. It doesn't matter if you're making $30,000 a year or $300,000. You need to put back for yourself for a rainy day. Build up some capital, for emergencies, network with people, learn how to sell, and selling isn't just making a pitch about a product. It's learning what makes people go in their businesses, and for me, my faith is big. I'm trying to learn more and be a better Christian and, serve the Lord a little bit better. I haven't always been that way. I've been a little more Saturday night than Sunday morning sometimes, and I'm trying to feed that into my kids. And then that's the reason I built my shop next to the house. Family matters, and if you don't have a foundation, you don't have a good marriage, good kids, make sure that's a priority too, because you see a lot of single successful men. And to me, that I don't want that, I'll slow the growth of my business in order to enjoy my family, but save more, spend less than you make. That's so important to even a business. If you have a great month, don't go out and buy that new bass boat, or, you don't need 100 cows at first. Start with 10, start with 40 acres. You don't need 400, that would be my biggest advice probably.
Yeah.
Read more books, listen to more podcasts, learn more from people who've done it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a big one. Everybody thinks that you're done learning after you're done with school.
No, continue and learn. Yeah, continuous learning.
What about, you kind of, could probably play off of that, but one skill that's super important for success that somebody could work on?
I would say in the age we're coming up to with AI and this and that and everyone being scared of this, public speaking, relationship and networking, salesmanship, those things are not going to go away. I don't think any amount of technology will make person to person, what do you call them? Just relational skills, networking skills, those soft skills between two people. Don't be afraid to go into a crowd and shake some people's hand and just strike up a conversation. You never know who you're going to meet. And don't be afraid like coaching calls. Don't be afraid to call and ask somebody for help or take something on, to learn a new little skill,
Mm-hmm.
Public speaking. I'm learning that the more confident you are to talk to people, that will open up doors. You can do anything if you can speak in public. And I'm getting better at it, but
Yeah.
that's important. I'd say do it as much as you can, whether it's at church or go to your local chamber or something. Get in front of people.
Mm-hmm.
Get the confidence.
That's huge. Yeah. Bring a lot of opportunity.
Yeah.
And of course, what's your favorite restaurant?
Man, locally, if you ever get to Marlow, Oklahoma, and I invited y'all in when y'all were in town for the Watermelon Festival, but we didn't get a chance to get together. If you're in Southwest Oklahoma, go to Giuseppe's Italian Restaurant. Man, it's the best place. People come from Texas, all around Oklahoma City.
Yeah.
Giuseppe's is probably one of my favorite right now.
Cool.
Yeah.
And of course, super important, especially for you running for office. How do people see you, get a hold of you?
Yep.
Find your business, all that stuff.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Crockett. Look me up on Facebook. My personal account is Cody Elliott. My businesses are Frontier Equipment Sales, and then my podcast is Frontier Mindset Podcast, again on Spotify, or I have a website for that as well, and a Facebook page. My campaign account is Elliott for OK. So you can go to my website. You can go to Cody Elliott for State House, and that's in Oklahoma. Hopefully people will figure that out. But, so you can follow me on the social medias, Instagram, Facebook, or my websites. So you can, if you're interested in my politics or got anything to say or learn, look me up, call me, text me, direct message me.
Mm-hmm.
So we can talk equipment, we can talk podcasting, we can talk politics, we can talk real estate. Yeah, we can talk men's ministry, we can talk family. So anybody's welcome to reach out to me. I'd love to share what little bit of wisdom I've got.
Yeah.
So,
and I think anybody that's interested in this podcast, which people that have stayed on it this long probably are interested. I think are going to like your podcast because it's like I said, a lot of the same format, same type people. You get to be a little bit more versed out. Like you said, you got some politicians and stuff on like that. But
yeah, I copied you pretty much.
I've liked a lot of them. Yeah,
I appreciate that.
Well, I appreciate you coming on.
You bet, Crockett. Thanks for having me.
Yes,
man, it's been a lot of fun. I enjoy your show, and I wish you the best of luck. Hopefully, maybe we can collaborate on something later.
Yes, sir.
It'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah. Well, y'all go check out all of his stuff. Check out Frontier Mindset. Go follow him, and we'll see y'all next time. As a business owner, Google reviews can make or break you. The problem, happy customers don't always speak up, and the few bad ones can drag you down fast. That's why we built Review Wizard, a free tool that makes getting 5-star reviews simple. Just post a QR code in your business, customers can scan it, and in seconds they leave you a review. But that's just the start. Review Wizard helps you respond to customers automatically, share reviews straight to social media, and even add them to your website to build instant trust. Every new review boosts your Google SEO ranking, making it easier for new customers to find you online. And if you want to take it to the next level, our AI upgrade can filter out the bad reviews before they hit your page and engage with your customers so you don't lose them. That means more good reviews, less damage control, and stronger relationships. The best part, the base version is completely free. No catch. Just click the link below and start turning your happy customers into your best marketing team today.